Different reasons are popular and capable of attracting large crowds. Over a frenzied few minutes, the Jewish public cast their votes. The surprise result, freedom for the terrorist and death for the preacher. But the riddle remains. Did the Jews really know who they were voting for?
Both men have the same first name. Both are called Jesus. The Nazareth rabbi often refers to himself as Son of the Father. In the Aramaic tongue, Jesus Barabbas. The astonishing theory is beginning to gain ground here that the voters may have been confused between Jesus Barabbas, Son of the Father, and Jesus Barabbas, a known dissident, murderer, and revolutionary. If that's the case, the wrong man may have been sent to the gallows. This is Mike Greenspan reporting from Jerusalem.
Whatever the validity of the vote, the Galilean rabbi was flogged and prepared for execution. The ritual for execution is well established. Richard Lindley's report contains pictures and descriptions which some people may find distressing.
The condemned man's last walk is always a long one. From prison, he makes his way through the Via Dolorosa, the saddest of streets, past the indifferent gaze of the city's shopkeepers to the execution site. Local human rights activists have long complained that the Roman method of execution is even more cruel than the local method, which is unnecessarily agonizing.
From a Jewish perspective, if we want to crucify someone, what do? We kill him first through stoning, and then we put him on the cross after he's dead. It's much, much more humane in the sense that death is much quicker. From a Roman perspective, what do? We either tie you to the cross, or else we take a nail, we put it here between the wrist, and we can keep you up there for 4 to 10 minutes, or we can keep you up there for days, depending upon how many people we have waiting in line that day.
Protesters against the death penalty have released this picture of the body of a man who suffered crucifixion. But publicizing the horror of crucifixion cuts both ways. It may disgust some people, but the authorities think that that in itself may be a powerful deterrent to other potential criminals. This is Richard Lindley on the Via Dolorosa, Jerusalem.
The rabbi's crucifixion was a public event, and thousands of Passover pilgrims flocked to the scene. Our special team were also standing by to witness events. Over live now to David Jessel.
Thank you, Martin. Yes, you join me at the end of a solemn and distressing day, something altogether out of keeping with the joyful celebration of Passover. For obvious reasons, television can't show scenes of the actual execution. The deterrent effect is achieved by inviting people to witness the spectacle firsthand, as I discovered earlier today. As news of the planned execution spread, the crowds began to flock towards the landfill site on the edge of Jerusalem, which is the traditional site for carrying out the ritual of crucifixion. The mood was mixed. Some relieved that a decisive end was going to be put to the uncertainty, some shocked that the shadow of the cross would fall over this most holy of festivals. Security was at its very tightest. At Passover, the temple guard and Roman troops are always on full alert. For this unprecedented execution of a popular rabbi on one of the holiest days for the Jews, there was an almost tangible sense of tension. Some of those who went to witness the execution were the very same crowds who had flocked to hear the rabbi earlier this week. For others, it was simply a freakish extra holiday entertainment, or even an opportunity to make money. As the actual moment approached, freak weather conditions literally cast a shadow over the scene. It was like an eclipse. It was as if the sun itself had hidden its face. 2 other petty offenders were also executed, but obviously the dissident rabbi was the center of attention. According to those closest to the scene, his last words were to the effect that his God had abandoned him. Now, of course, the crowds have gone, and this sordid rubbish tip on the edge of Jerusalem returns to the rats and the souvenir hunters. Some of them, I'm afraid to say, Roman soldiers who are traditionally entitled to the personal effects of the executed men. Not all the security forces stationed here have been so dispassionate. One of the men on execution detail we saw earlier in that report was said to be profoundly affected by the experience. Some of the women from the Jesus movement have removed the body for burial, it's believed, to the home of a local sympathizer.
David, stay with us just a moment. This has been an extraordinary day. What impact are these events likely to have?
Well, no one likes this sort of unpleasantness, especially at Passover. Having said that, there is some relief that there's been no major civil disturbance. Governor Pilate comes out of this well with his amnesty to the terrorist Barabbas, a politically adroit gesture to the local crowds. Caiaphas, the chief priest, has managed to keep the Jewish population under control. As for the unfortunate Jesus, well, he was drawing increasingly large crowds with his speeches about overthrowing authority, social equality, freedom, justice. It's the sort of talk, quite frankly, that could get anyone executed at any time, anywhere in the world.
David, thanks very much indeed. And that's it from Dateline Jerusalem, where we had hoped to be covering the Jewish Passover celebrations, but where the festivities have been overshadowed by the execution of the Galilean rabbi. Tomorrow's headlines, well, the Jerusalem Post plays down the death of the rabbi, concentrating instead on the day's survivor. Barabbas, my freedom joy, is their headline, while Haaretz claims an exclusive with Crucifixion soldier, my regret, an interview with a centurion who witnessed it all. And sorry we didn't have time for our report from Rome, but we'll be back tomorrow with full coverage of the reaction to the death of Jesus. For now, good night.